Thought your computer froze, didn't you? Hi, thanks for staying in. I'm going to be your guest storyteller today. My name is Kurt, and that's all you really need to know about me. Other than that, I'm here to read you an old Appalachian folk tale. All right, and you may have heard it with your parents. You know, they may have told you this already. I mean, you're a cultured lot. But it's called Fearless Jack. And you may have heard it from your parents, but I guarantee it won't be as good as you hear today because this has been adapted and illustrated by Paul Brett Johnson. And I don't know if you know who Paul Brett Johnson is, but he is a heck of an illustrator and an even better adapter. He can adapt like that. So anyway, I'm going to be telling you the story of Fearless Jack. So once again, hello children, hello parents, hello people who don't have children who just want to hear a good story on the internet. You're allowed to come too. Now, normally Jack tales, if you're aware of the history of them, are told by somebody who's much better than I am. In fact, a lot of the time someone would have memorized this story, and then they would have told the story with grandiose hand gestures and props, but you can't have McDonald's every night. So here we are. All right, let's get into the story of Fearless Jack. It starts on like page 20. Jack had two older brothers, but they were off seeking their fortune. That left young Jack to take care of their ma. Well, it got to where they were down to nothing but a penny in a pot. So Jack's ma said, "Jack, honey, you know, oughtn't you ought to go find a job of work before we starve to death?" Well, Jack's ma took the last biscuit in the house and a little dab of sorghum and packed a sandwich for Jack and sent him on his way. There she is. Sent him on his way with that sorghum biscuit. Jack walked up a few hills and down a few hills until his belly started to rile him. He found a big rock and sat down on it to eat, but pretty soon here come a yellow jacket, pestering Jack for his sorghum biscuit, as they do. Then come another one and another. "Who invited y'all to this picnic?" asked Jack, and he whooshed his hands back and forth, trying to drive off them pesky bees. It didn't do a bit of good. Before he knew it, there was a whole swarm of yellow jackets buzzing all over the sandwich. Well, Jack got mad, real mad, and he took off his bill cap and he brung it down with a mighty whack. Well, Jack started picking dead yellow jackets out of his sandwich. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jack counted up to 10. "Not bad," said he. 10 at a whack. Jack puffed up like a banty rooster, as banty roosters tend to do. 10 at a whack. Jack whittled a little pointy stick and he dipped it in some pokeberry juice and wrote on the bill of his cap, "Fearless Jack killed 10 at a whack." But then he finished his flattened out sandwich and went on down the road. There's a picture of him fighting off those pesky bees. Well, after a while, Jack come to a town. It looked just like a ghost town. Wasn't nobody stirring. Hushed up, like a graveyard. Then all of a sudden, here comes something tearing down the street like a haint in a whirlwind. Jack dove over for cover in the nick of time, but not before catching a whiff of the rottenest breath he'd ever smelled. "What in tarnation?" asked Jack, as he watched that thing rip-snort its way through town. In a few minutes, a feller poked his head out a door. "You still drawing air, son?" "Sure am," said Jack, dusting himself off. The feller stuck his head out a little further and looked right and left. Finally, he stepped outside. "I'm house sheriff around these parts. Who might you be?" "Name's Jack," said Jack. Oh, here's the picture of the stinky breath whirlwind and the sheriff with the awkwardly high voice. Anyway, sorry for that weird jerk of me out of the wrong spot. It's not because I messed up. It's because there's probably alternate timelines or something. Anyway, the sheriff looked down at Jack, looked him up and down, studied Jack's bill. "Says there you killed 10 at a whack." "Yep." "You don't look like much. You sure it was 10 you killed? All one blow?" "Yep, I killed 10 all right." Of course, Jack didn't say 10 of what. We know it was bees. "Well, son, if you're speaking gospel, though I kindly doubt it, then you're in the right place. We got some wild varmints around here, been terrorizing the whole county, killing livestock, thrashing crops. Why, folks are scared to come outdoors. Fact is, there's a big reward for the capture of them varmints. I gotta warn you though, plenty of a braggarty britches just like you've had their go, and nary a one has been heard from since. The sheriff sort of snickered at Jack. But the way I figure it, anybody that killed 10 men at one whack can surely shed a few craters. Jack studied for a bit. How much reward? $100, cash money. Jack figured $100 ought to be able to take care of his ma for a while, but he knew right well the difference twixt yellow jackets and wild varmints. So all Jack says was, I'll see what I can do. And here's the picture again of the sheriff. It's a close-up. Jack went on his way. He decided varmint hunting was a mite too risky. Figured he'd just slip over to the next town and try to stir up a regular job and work over there. It might not pay as good, but it would sure be a slight healthier. Well, no sooner had Jack gone out of town than he heard a frightful snorting and snarfing. Looked around, and here come the biggest, most ferocious wild boar he'd ever seen. Ooh-wee! Jack's flew swippity-split down the holler, when the monster hog slicing at the seat of his britches, as they tend to do. Jack was in luck. He spied an empty corn crib, and he headed straight for it. He ran inside and climbed up to the top. That old boar was right behind him, but he couldn't climb, so it just reared up and started gnashing and slashing, trying to get at Jack. Here's a picture of the corn crib if you're like me and had no idea what is a corn crib. Whoa, it happened again. Jack slipped on over and topping down the other side of the corn crib. He ran back around the door and slammed it shut and wedged it tight. When the old boar figured out what had happened, it took a conniption fit. It charged the door, but the door held. Jack went back to town, strutting and whistling. Did you see any of them varmints? Asked the sheriff, in Jack's voice, which was really odd because he should have sounded like himself. Well, I don't know if it counts, but I did come across a little pig shoat, said Jack. Right cute little rooster. But it got to pestering me, so I grabbed a hold of its tail and slung it in a corn crib. You might ought to take a look, just to make sure it ain't one of them varmints. When he saw the boar all pinned up, the sheriff's eyes got big as dinner plates, and he cleared his voice, so his voice would be correct this time. Well, Fearless Jack, I misjudged you. Didn't really take you for such a mighty hunter, scrap of a lad like you. He is boarding up the corn crib. There's another googly-eyed picture of our dear sheriff. Jack got his $100 and started to leave. Hold on a minute, said the sheriff. There's another $100 if you can get rid of a nasty grizzly bear. It's been plundering the farms around here. Well, I'll see what I can do, said Jack, but his intention was to go straight home. I don't need to tangle with no grizzly bear, Jack said to himself. I'll get myself mauled to death. Besides, $100 is plenty to see me and Ma through the winter. Jack never was one to make 2 trips to the creek when one would do. Jack lit out of town. Got about as far as the county line when he started yawning. He saw a great big mossy mound to the side of the road. I need to catch about 40 winks, said Jack, and he climbed on top of the mound and went to sleep. There's a picture of it. I don't know if you can pick it up too kindly, but that is not a mound of hay or any kind of moss I've ever seen, because it's got a nose and paws, so. Jack had the gall-darndest dream. There was as big as a mountain, mean as a devil, hungry as a goat grizzly bear, and Jack was astride its humpy old back. Except it wasn't no dream. When Jack come full awake, he was holding on for dear life. That bear was bucking like a carnival ride. It was snarling and slapping its powerful arms every which way, trying to get at Jack. Finally, the old bear commenced backing up, figuring to pin Jack up against a sycamore. But bears don't have eyes in the back of their heads, and thank goodness. So the grizzly bear couldn't see too well where it was going. It missed the sycamore and tumbled rump first into a dry well. Jack sprang onto a tree branch just in time. Groarr! It's the bear, not Jack. You never heard such a commotion as that grizzly trying to get out of that well. Every time it clawed a few feet up, the stones would give way and it would fall back down to the bottom. There's the grizzly fight. And the well that now has a grizzly in it. Yes, sir. Jack could feel that extra $100 in his pocket already. Well, Sheriff, said Jack when he got back to town, afraid I didn't run into no grizzly, but I did come across a little yelpy cub. I played with it a little while, and it wouldn't let me take a nap, so I swatted it into an old dry well up yonder. Fearless Jack, you sure are something, said the sheriff, as he got a look at that grizzly. Then he paid Jack his money. I'd be obliged if you'd take one more, varmint. How obliged, said Jack. $300, cash money. Well, Jack whistled. Why, it must be one ornery critter. You don't know the half of it, said the sheriff. Remember when you first come through town, there was a wild unicorn that just about ran you over. Well, that's a unicorn. You're trifling the truth. No, sirree! That damn-blasted unicorn has gored out 100 cows and nearly that many sheep and 2 or 3 old ladies to boot. It's a murdering unicorn. Well, I'll see what I can do, said Jack, but it'll cost you $500 cash money this time. He knows his worth. I reckon that'd be a bargain. Sheriff agreed. Here's the picture of the bear in the well, sheriff on his tippy toes trying to convince Jack to kill a murderous unicorn. Jack had heard tell of unicorns, but he'd never come face to face with one. He didn't allow now was the time to make new acquaintances. Old Jack just sauntered out of town and on down the road. Jack hadn't gone too far when he smelled something terrible. At first he couldn't place it. That ain't no polecat, that ain't no rotten eggs, and that ain't no 3-day-old fish, or any other smells that I obviously have just right there in the chamber ready to talk about. By the time Jack figured out what he'd smelled the smell before, it was too late. Up ahead of him stood a wild unicorn, snorting out stinky breath and pawing the earth. See, that was something that was lost in the history books. Nowadays, unicorns are all magic and rainbows. But back then, terrible gingivitis. It drawed a bead on Jack, pointing its dreadful horn, and charged at him. Jack never was run to the store when he could get there by walking, but if he had to, that boy could burn a cyclone. Right now, he figured he had to. Jack lit out with the wild unicorn no more than a frog's hair right behind him. There's that snorting murderous beast right there in the background. Jack and the unicorn ran to the middle of town and around to the courthouse. Don't worry, fearless Jack, I'll save you, yelled the sheriff, and he grabbed his .22, which is not really the caliber I'd go for a murderous unicorn, and also doesn't really explain why he couldn't get rid of the pig either earlier. But nonetheless, he grabbed the .22 he had, and there he is, running through the town square, chasing down a horse-sized animal with a .22 caliber rifle. As you might suspicion, the sheriff wasn't much of a shot. He pulled that trigger and the first bullet hit the wild blue yonder. He aimed and fired again, and this time it went cattywampus into the dirt. The next bullet hit the church bell, ricocheted and hit the statue on the courthouse lawn, zinged over to the barber pole, rebounded once more, and hit that unicorn smack in the behind. By now, the unicorn had just about wore Jack out, and it was getting ready to gore him good. But getting shot in the behind throwed the unicorn plumb off. It missed Jack altogether, and it stove its horn into a big old oak tree, right up to the hilt. The wild unicorn bellowed so loud it started a rock slide on the mountainside, but try as it would, it couldn't pull out its horn. Finally, with all that thrashing, the horn broke clean off, and the unicorn, leastways what used to be a unicorn, now I guess you call it a regular horse, hightailed it out of town like a whipped pup. Now look what you done, Jack said in the sheriff's voice, getting him back for earlier when he talked in his voice. Don't you know unicorns are rare as hen's teeth? Probably not more than a handful in the whole wide world. If I wanted to, I could have killed that critter back in the woods, but I was aiming to join the circus with it. I just about had it wore down when you ride in and start shooting and messed it up. Well, I'm powerfully sorry, fearless Jack, said the sheriff. Well, I reckon you ought to pay me double. Make up for my lost revenue. Sheriff thought a minute. I guess it's the least I could do. He agreed. Jack collected his $1,000 and he couldn't wait to show his ma how rich they were. There's the regular horse getting it out of town, and there is Jack extorting a town sheriff for extra money. As Jack was leaving, the sheriff hollered after him. Hey, fearless Jack! Don't guess a feller like you needs to worry about that settlement of giants on the other side of the mountain. Giants? Asked Jack. But that's a story for another pandemic. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you'll come back. And by come back, I mean stay where you are, and maybe turn on your internet again. Anyway, thank you.